It's Tuesday, and on Tuesdays, we do tea talks. What's up, family? It's your girl T, aka the nappy-headed jojoba, and I think the last tea talk I did was all about why women swipe left on Tinder, or at least why this woman swipes left on Tinder. You guys really seem to enjoy that video. It was definitely one of the most fun videos I've ever done because it really just kind of let me be myself a little bit more. I didn't have to worry about talking about the pros and cons of a product or a fitness program. It was just me talking to my friends, which was really fun for me. So I definitely want to do more videos like that. And I actually have more reasons that I swipe left. So a part 2 is coming. So that is on the way. But in the meantime, I wanted to talk today about tips for dating safely when dating online. Truthfully, a lot of these suggestions and tips will apply to dating, period. But dating online is its own thing in a lot of ways because you literally don't know who you're dealing with. With these profiles and bios and photos on dating apps, people don't necessarily have to be who they claim to be. Not only do we have the term catfishing, there's an entire show about it. I don't know if it's still on, I've never seen it. But the point is, it's common enough that everyone is aware of this possibility of being catfished, fake profiles, all that. And even if he or she is who he say he is, doesn't necessarily mean it's someone that you want to invite into your world. I've been getting more and more requests to do my Fuckboy 101 sort of class here on my channel. So I guess we can consider this Fuckboy 101 session 1, because if you're going to be a lady fuckboy, probably the first and most important rule is to stay alive and not be abducted and then sold into human trafficking. All of these rules are coming from my perspective, of course, which is that of a straight cisgender woman, but I still feel like these tips are probably pretty universal and could be helpful for anyone who's out there in these dating streets. As always, got my notes here on my phone to keep myself on track. And my first suggestion is to get you a dick line. By that I mean, what you don't want to do is be giving out your main or only cell phone number to random guys who you've just met maybe a couple days ago, maybe even that same day on a dating app. Here's why. If you've had the same cell phone number for many years, in my case, I've had mine since college, people can get a whole lot of information about you simply by Googling your phone number. Or if they actually want to spring for like a background check or reverse phone number lookup, they can definitely get a lot of information that you may not necessarily want them to have before you even fucking know them. I learned this the hard way, where the first time I matched with a guy, it actually wasn't on Tinder, it was on another app, but things were going well. We've been talking a few days. We exchanged information, and then within an hour, he's texting me like, ever heard of, and he gives a name, and it's my government legal name. And then he says, or, and he gives my business name, my small corporation name that I use for my freelance jobs. Simply by giving him my phone number, immediately he was able to get my full name, my address, no doubt, my business name. It was enough. I was just like, oh my God, the call is coming from inside the house. Immediate panic. I confronted him like, what the fuck is this? And he's just like, well, I just found it by searching your number, yada, yada, yada. Needless to say, I never met with this guy because I don't know why he would think that I would find it funny or cute that he stalked me immediately after getting my phone number. And I did carry a weapon with me every time I would take RayRay out for a walk for several weeks after that. I am that paranoid. But it also taught me that I needed to get an alternate phone number to give to these guys in case they're fucking weirdos. You can get an additional phone number in many ways. You can get one through your cell phone service provider. Then there's the more web-based ones like eVoice, Bitrix24, Google Voice. Do your research on that because most of them aren't free, or at least most of the good ones are not free, but most of them also are not expensive at all, and Google Voice, I believe, is still free. So in my opinion, it is worth it to protect your privacy and to make sure that you're being nice and safe, as well as to avoid giving weirdos access to stalk you more easily and readily. This segues perfectly into my second rule, which is to never give your full name or address to anyone before you actually meet them. It's the same reason you want to have the dick line. You don't want to make it easier for someone to stalk you. As I said, you don't know who you're dealing with, and some people are just fucking crazy. Internet stalking is extremely easy to do, and I think a lot of people just think of it as normal now. And with the information a person can get from even just some light internet stalking, they can start analog stalking you too. And the absolute last thing any of us wants is some creeper from Tinder showing up outside of our apartment. apartments. Again, extreme case, very unlikely, but just be safe. Better safe than sorry. My next tip is based more on instinct/experience, and it is knowing how to detect a fuckboy. Again, this is Lady Fuckboy 101, so we are the fuckboys here. We are not going to invite fuckboys into our lives. Some signs of fuckboyism are far more obvious than others. Fuckboy face, you know, the squinty pout, you know, this face. Crotch shots and or torso plus crotch shots within the dating profile. Not to mention the dudes who, and I appreciate their honesty, are quite candid that they are only on there for hookups. In my case, it's an obvious swipe left whenever my fuckboy radar goes off, but in the event you actually get duped into matching with a fuckboy, there are more indicators that will let you know to never actually meet up with said fuckboy. Quick interruption, I just realized that my microphone was not recording the entire first chunk of this video, and just in the interest of being able to turn this around and get it uploaded for you guys reasonably quickly, I'm not going to redo it, so apologies for the poor audio quality prior to this part right here and going forward. As I was saying, detecting a fuckboy after you've already matched with one. One of the most telltale signs is when the guy is inviting himself to your place within maybe 2 exchanges of conversation. Hello, hi, how are you? I'm great. Why don't we get together and see if we vibe? If a dude is inviting himself to your fucking residence within 3 sentences, he is an obvious fuckboy. Quite honestly, I don't know what dumbasses are actually agreeing to this in the first place. Hello, stranger danger. That is a telltale sign of a fuckboy. You know, let's see if we vibe. Let's see if we have chemistry. When you guys have never even met at all, no way. Another red flag is the send me a pic. These are also fuckboys because a lot of them like to just collect photographs of women that they feel are, you know, personalized and just for them. It's an ego thing. So yes, if the guy is inviting himself to your home pretty much immediately after matching, just say no. Which segues into my next tip/rule, which is to always, 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 always meet in a public place for the first one at least, but probably first few meetings, and insist on this. If the guy ghosts on you because you insist on meeting in a public place rather than having him come to yours or you go to his, girl, you dodged a bullet. If he is fighting you on this and is extremely resistant to meeting in a public place, then it's time for you to ghost, baby. At best, he's a fuckboy creep. At worst, he's a fuckboy creep who's also married. Those of you guys who are in my Instagram fam know that I sometimes post the more hilarious messaging and texting that goes on with a lot of these fools on the dating apps or even after we've transitioned off the dating app. And you'll know that I recently had a married guy who was trying to seduce me through messaging and trying to meet up with me. Obviously, I ghosted on him, but I still wanted to share just how ridiculous the conversation with him was and how persistent he remained after I told him to fuck off. Yeah, this kind of shit happens, is my point. Rule/tip number 5 is to always let a friend and or family member know that you are going on a date and to give them all the information you have about this joker beforehand. His name, his phone number if you have it, maybe where he works, a description or even a photo of him, where you met him, where you're going on the date, etc. And just as importantly, schedule a check-in with that friend or whomever for later that evening or the next day so that they know that you weren't abducted. I always have a friend or two be my point person or people every time I go out on a date with a guy for the first or second time, just so that if they don't hear from me by the next morning, they know they need to avenge my death. This next rule is going to be a quick one because it should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you meet with a guy at a place where you're going to be having food or drinks, never leave your drink unattended. Do not get Cosby'd. I think we all know this by now, but never leave your drink alone. Next rule is to think twice about letting any of these fools walk you to your car, especially if they seem weird. If he seems like a good guy, trust your judgment, I would say, but if he seems even a little weird, don't let him walk you to your car, and here's why. Similar to having your phone number, your real phone number, rather than a dick line number, if a guy walks you to your car, he can see your plate. You can get pretty much anything you need to know about a person in terms of their personal info with their license plate number if you want to pay for that. So I would suggest if the guy seems like a weirdo, don't let him walk you to your car. And if you're going to be in an area or perhaps it's a time of day where you don't feel super duper safe necessarily walking back to your car on your own, just take a Lyft or an Uber, and that way there will also be a record of your movements throughout the evening through your Lyft or Uber account. My 8th tip is to get a dog, or if you don't have a dog, invent one. I don't know how many times I've gotten out of dates where the guy was just a dud or a creep or a weirdo, where mercifully I had to leave to go walk my dog. If you don't want to invent a dog to go walk, it's just as easy to arrange to have a friend call or text you at a predetermined time so that you have an out. You can say that something's come up and you have an emergency, or even better, preemptively create another commitment following the date so that you always have an out if you need it. So if you're meeting a guy for dinner, say, oh, I'm supposed to meet my friend for drinks after this, so I just need to make sure I leave by such and such a time. This way you already have a hard out lined up and there really won't be much going back and forth. In the event the date goes great and you want to keep it going, you of course can do so. But if the guy's a dud or a perv or whatever, at least you already have an out. Tip number 9 is to simply project a sense of not being the one. This is conceptual, easier said than done, and not something for which I can give you a concrete set of steps to achieve. But one way of not being the one is perhaps to sign up for a self-defense class so that you actually feel more confident in being able to defend yourself if it were to come to that. It's actually something that I've been meaning to do and that I'm going to do soon now that I'm committing to it here on YouTube. But generally speaking, I am from Queens by way of Brooklyn. My family's from Flatbush and I grew up in Queens for the most part, so I really am not the one. You develop street smarts growing up in a big city like that regardless, so I do watch my back. I am hyper aware. I am probably even more paranoid and self-protective than is normal, but again, better safe than sorry. And I honestly do believe in my heart that generally projecting a sense of not being the one to be fucked with has kept me safe many times in my life. Predators do target their victims, and they're probably not going to target you if you seem like a badass bitch. And finally, my 10th tip is to not give out your social media handles unless you are cool with essentially inviting him to stalk you. Once a guy has your Instagram or whatever, he's able to creep on you essentially forever. Blocking an account on Instagram means fuck all because a lot of these dudes have stalker accounts anyway. Once you do that, your only other option is to basically abandon your account and start from scratch with a new handle anyway. Image searching on Google is a thing, or I guess reverse image searching on Google is a thing. If a guy wants to screenshot or download one of your photos from the app, he may still be able to find you if he's that fucking creepy. But actually giving out your social media handles to the dude is basically a layup for him to stalk you. My Not Vlog fan will remember just a few months ago that guy I went on one date with, let him down easy, didn't ghost, but he still managed to find me on Instagram somehow, I would imagine by reverse image searching me, and was like all up in my stories after I told him there's nothing here, have a nice life. So it can still happen. I blocked him to send the message, but again, that's not necessarily going to mean he couldn't still be creeping on me if he wanted to. It was mostly just to send the message like, hey, I already told you to fuck off. Those are my 10 tips to stay safe when in these online dating streets, these proverbial streets. But ultimately, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Trust is earned. It should never be given freely. So don't just disclose all sorts of personal and sensitive information to these fools simply because you guys have been texting and messaging for a couple of days. I follow these rules, and in dealing with the creeps that I encounter, which is frequent, I've been really, really happy and relieved to know that they at least didn't have a ton of information on me to try to stay in my life after that first terrible date. And I've had 2 of the worst dates of my entire life, one of which I literally had to escape from under a cloak of darkness. So if you guys want to hear about the worst date or dates of my life, maybe just hit the thumbs up if you're not a commenter and let me know, because I've never really done a story time video, but it's a story, all right. And then sadly enough, exactly a week later, I had the other worst date of my life. And depending on my mood for the day, I haven't decided which one is the worst, but it was back-to-back trash. Those are my best tips for staying safe when dating online. If you have others, if you're also in the dating pool like I am, feel free to share them in the comments so that other people can see them. And other than that, again, if you guys want a story time video of the worst date of my life, but you're not necessarily a commenter, just hit the thumbs up so that I can at least see if this video gets more thumbs up than what's normal for me. I'll have a pretty good gauge. But beyond that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.